Scrawny with the skinny. What's up? IEM Cologne. Group stage is done. I'm coming off an L, but I'm energized because I'm at home now. All right, 3 weeks on the road for Counter-Strike felt real good, but I'm back in the office. I'm locking in for the foreseeable future, and yeah, that's exciting. What was really exciting was the group stage of IEM. That's got to be one of the best group stages that I've cast in quite some time for a big S-tier event, and we were on A-Stream for the majority of it, so that was really exhilarating. Shout out ESL for hooking us up with an opportunity. But the playoffs are up next, and goddamn, tough playoffs to predict, I tell you. Ultimately, Artifacts finished top 62%. All right, I took an L here, guys, and that L is brought to you by way of FaZe. So heroic picks, I'm not upset with that. I avoided Jabby, good call. Ents, good reason to put faith in them. Nerds delivered. Now, it would have been better to have gone for Diha or Sun Pius or even Snappy just because he was so cost effective. Switching out Kerrigan for Snappy and then taking somebody from G2 instead of Twist would have been off to the moon. But unfortunately, FaZe got smoked by G2, and FaZe got absolutely shredded by Na'Vi, and that's why these two players end up in negative points, and I end up scoring 2 points on this event. That puts me 7th on the celebrity leaderboard for now. Now, I gotta say, the celebrity leaderboard seems to be flying off the charts. It's a hot start for a lot of people. P2, still climbing, growing a little bit of a lead early on this season. Vince, the newcomer. Who would have thought that the Vincels would rise this quickly? Prof and Striker, well, that's HLTV tampering with the games. That's insider trading. They know things we don't. So Prof and Striker, you got to keep an eye on those guys. Sketchy dudes. Maniac and Flom, nice to see Flom come back from what was a horrible season last season to this now. And then there's me. Hello. Nart had a big game this third one. Then Alan, Machine, Harry. Didn't expect to see this trio of Brits up high. Maui Snake is in the top. Oh my God. We don't go past that. It's all messy and it's still early days. But I didn't drop out of the top 10. Although my goal was to never drop out of top 5. So we failed there. But that's okay. All right. We've got the playoffs up next. And I think these playoffs will make for some really good Counter-Strike. Now this video is actually powered by Pitstop.gg. That's right, pickstop.gg. Pickstop is a website where you can do predictions and pick'em challenges throughout the year for all of the big events outside of just the majors. They've got cool little trophies on their website where if you do well at certain events, you can earn trophies that you can then showcase on your profile for the next ones. It's like skins, but you have to earn them with predictions. What I also like about Pickstop is that, as you can see here, you have to pick scores of the series as well. Now, this fantasy land is powered by Pickstop. I'm going to be doing my predictions for the bracket on their website in front of you right now. Go to pickstop.gg if you guys want to make your predictions as well. Again, little trophies, you know? Don't you want little medals? Come on. What more could you ask for? You can also go to leagues. They have partner leagues, including mine and Maui Snakes. And if you go join those leagues, you can straight up compare yourself to me and Maui and anybody else who uses pickstop.gg. Shout out to those guys. They're really cool. They just want to do more predictions, and they're into the fantasy videos as well. So that's why I incorporated them in this one. Go check them out. Pickstop.gg. So, first quarterfinals, we've got Vitality versus Cloud9. Vitality right now have ZywOo, who is, again, in the best form of any player in 2023. But they're also banking currently on a young man named Flames. That's right, Flames, right here. Okay, Buddy is the 7th highest rated player coming in Cologne. Magisk is right behind him in 9th. And then we've got ZywOo at 3rd behind m0nesy and Device. These damn op abusers, I tell you. So m0nesy, Device, and ZywOo, 3 highest rated players. Pretty tight knit. Nico's having a great event. Shiro's right up there too, despite the fact that now Buster will be replaced by Axile, which makes this a better Cloud9. Presumably, we should 100% be getting a better Cloud9 in the playoffs than we did in the group stage. So the first question of the playoff bracket in the quarterfinals on Friday is, can Vitality defend against the star-studded roster of C9 in their first outing on a stage? Now, Axile is notorious for being a bit of a stage choker. Outside of IEM Dallas last year, not this summer, but last year, Axile really doesn't put up in big venues. And when he doesn't put up, Shiro isn't enough to carry Cloud9 bomb out of events. So right there, that to me is this warning sign for C9. I would have loved to see them get some reps in the group stage, for Axile to maybe power up so that we know what kind of form he's entering the event with. But now Axile just has to show up and play well in the playoffs. You'd think Vitality would therefore have the edge here, because they have Zywoo, and they have Flames, and they have Magisk, and we haven't even said Spinks, who is also awesome and has had great performances at big events, i.e. the Blast Paris Major. However, this was my biggest criticism of Flames as he got picked into this roster. It's been my biggest criticism of Flames over the 2 years that we saw him with OG whenever they would actually qualify through Blast to spring finals or fall finals, wherever it may be. When Flames gets on stages, Flames falls off. Him and Degster tried to carry OG for as long as they did, and Degster was pretty consistently able to put up those kinds of games on the playoff stages. Flames hasn't. Now, will that same problem happen to Flames here in Cologne? That, to me, is the question surrounding Vitality. And even if it does, will Vitality still have enough star power in Zywoo, Spinks, and Magisk to carry them through victory over Cloud9? The worst player in the server of these 10s will be Apex, and Apex is currently having a bad event. Apex is having a bad event because I think he's been playing quite carelessly. I've seen Apex do some things that were more reminiscent of the Apex of 12 months ago, 10 months ago, and not quite that Apex that running into Paris I personally started to praise as somebody who was playing intelligently, who was playing a bit less selfishly, and who was playing to conserve himself and be alive and not put his team at disadvantaged situations. Now, even with Apex in a weird place, and even with Flames falling off a little bit, I still take Vitality in this series. And I take Vitality in this series 2-1. I think C9 are going to have something up their sleeve, and I'm just not confident in the full swing of things. I mean, I didn't draft Vitality in the group stage because I expected them to be a bit weaker. I wasn't super impressed with them at groups 2 weeks ago. Obviously, they cleared their group like it was nobody's business because they played versus OG and they played versus m0nesy. The moment they had to play a better team in G2 for the semifinals, they lost. So, Cloud9 and m0nesy, I put much more on par with G2 than those others, and I think that their struggles will now start to shine through. But Vitality pick up the first quarterfinal. The second quarterfinal is Heroic versus Astralis, and Astralis looks incredible. I'm going to keep this one pretty clean. I think that Heroic are not looking like their best selves. But I don't believe in the new pieces of Astralis to hit a stage game like this and be able to hold back a Heroic that has pretty consistently made at least semis or more in lands throughout the last year. This will be a 2-1 game. I believe Heroic will take Overpass. I believe that Astralis will take Ancient. Their T-side Ancient right now is impeccable. And then it's going to come down to a decider map that I expect to be Mirage. Watch Heroic irk that bad boy out in overtime. 2-1, Heroic win. m0nesy versus Vitality, G2 versus Heroic. These are the semifinals I expect to occur. I think that m0nesy are pretty damn solid, okay? They started off shaky in their first game because they didn't have any run-up into Cologne. They just found Cologne as their first event of the year. They had to be prepped with no officials jumping into this. They didn't play the play-in stage. They just came straight out swinging in groups. They almost faltered in their opening match versus 9, but they hung on to that bad boy. And then they even beat Heroic in a best of 3, despite it being a very close third map, to clinch this semifinal spot and to avoid Heroic until potentially grand finals. With that said, I think Vitality win this, and I think they're going to power through. We'll say 2-1. It's going to be super tight. With this one, I'm not quite sure about the head-to-head, the maps and whatnot, but I'm going to take Vitality 2-1 because Zywoo. Zywoo is in tournament-winning form. G2 versus Heroic. Oh, this game's going to fucking bang. And I believe that this is where the struggles we've seen from Heroic over the last week or so, last 2 weeks or so, will cost them. If we go back to the player statistics of this event, m0nesy is the highest rated player with a 1.33. Nico is not far off, but most notably, we have Hunter. When the second Kovac is suddenly just as good as the first in Nico, that is the formula that G2 used to win events at the start of this year. When they hoisted that trophy in Katowice, it was a pop-off performance between Hunter and JKS. And we've got to scroll down a little bit to find JKS floating at a 1.09 rating, but he is there with the team very very much present. And Hooksy's not completely botting out like he was 3 months ago, all right? There's been a slight uptick in Hooksy, and we don't even need that when the rest of this team is playing as they are right now. Okay, if we go to the group stage and check out who beat who, right? I believe G2 has the most impressive run so far. And even though I wrote them off last week, I had to remind myself that they used Blast as a boot camp. This is a team that almost lost to EG Black, goddammit. But they have powered up. So let's compare the runs of the teams that are currently in playoffs, all right? Their competitors in Heroic go 2-1 versus Mongols, 2-0 versus Monty, and then lose versus Ents. Make of this what you will. Ents beat 9 in a close 3-map series. They beat Fnatic, who impressed, I think, out of the gate, but also aren't turning heads. And then they beat Heroic. I'm taking Ents there. It's solid stuff. Cloud9 were playing with Buster, so I think it's hard to derive much from this. They started slowly versus Fnatic, but then crawled through that lower bracket, dispatching of two teams who had powered up through the play-in stage quite impressively, but by the skin of their teeth, beat Gamer Legion to even make playoffs. But now they have Axile. And that's such a massive question mark. Vitality took down OG and m0nesy. Like I said, pretty easy opponents. Even though m0nesy came out swinging, they fell off versus Vitality. They choked in that game, and they didn't make the playoffs because of that. They simply couldn't match up to Vitality. But then Vitality lose to G2 2-1 in the upper final. G2's run is the most impressive. G2 2-1 to Astralis, an incredibly hot Astralis at the moment, who has been turning a lot of heads, and teams at this event are talking about as being a very real threat. Then G2 smoked FaZe, like it wasn't even close. All right, that game was a whooping, a good old classic ass kicking. And G2 then toppled Vitality in the upper final to secure a spot straight into Stemmies. All right. G2 to me are the most impressive run, and they will 2-1 over Heroic. We'll have G2 Vitality in the grand finals, where the collective power of G2 and the inability of Flames to present on the biggest stage and the biggest point of pressure in his career will be the shortcoming of Vitality. A best of 5 grand finals. G2 win 3-2. It's all wrapped up, okay? I think that's how this one goes. I'm just calling 2-1s and 3-2s all over the place because games have been super tight, and I think we've gotten rid of the teams that are going to have blowout losses. Actually, there's also a chance that Vitality wins the grand final. I'll be straight up. I think it's Vitality or G2, and I think that's the real question mark, is these two teams in the final. So those are submitted, locked in on pitstop.gg. Thank you, Pitstop, for being a partner of this channel and for being a fan to fantasy. So now you guys are here for the fantasy draft, right? That's what we're actually here to do. Now that you know who I expect to win, I'm going to give you one fantasy roster this event. I'm locking it in today, and it will not change. This is my 100% locked in team, and that is why I'm only presenting one. Now, I'm talking about G2 first and foremost. You know that's who I'm banking on winning this event. And if G2 are to win, I think that it comes from m0nesy, who is currently the highest rated player coming out of groups on the most impressive run out of all the teams who are still playing at this event. Besides him, JKS has not shown me enough to convince me to take him over a $3,000 less Hunter, especially when, again, Hunter is the 6th highest rated player at this event, only 2 steps behind Nico, only 0.03 rating less than Nico, who's sitting at 224,000. Now, you might want to pick Nico just because, again, he is playing as well as he is. But when you look at the price tags of m0nesy and Hunter and the fact that these two are just right with him, come on. Plus, when they won Katowice, Hunter was actually the highest rated player of that grand finals. When it comes to big moments, Hunter will surprise you. At $196,000, he's a steal. And I think he goes perfectly alongside m0nesy as it opens up the op in the leader role. So we're banking on G2. You got to pick a team, essentially. And the other strategy, of course, for a playoffs fantasy event is to go 2-2-1. You try to pick 2 teams from each grand finalist, and then you slide in with the one that shouldn't cost you much. But I'm not going to do a 2-2-1. I'm going to do a 2-1-1. All right, because I'm quite uncertain about some of these other games, and I also want everybody to be reminded that if you pick players from a semi-finalist team like Ents or G2, then that's one less game to play. Now, they get 6 points because they've already technically earned a win by being in the semifinals, and that's a little bit of padding. But it doesn't compare to the padding a player will get if they carry a quarterfinal. If ZywOo has a 1.45 rating versus Cloud9, that's going to be worth way more than taking someone who's guaranteed semifinalist. And it's actually quite difficult to get back those points. And so I see a reason to choose players from quarterfinals instead. I want a player from a quarterfinal team that I expect to win. Based on my predictions, that is 1 Heroic and 1 Vitality. So when we go down to Vitality, I know y'all looking at Flames, but I told you he's going to drop off. Spinks is a big game player, but he hasn't had the hottest Cologne in comparison to Magisk, all right? Magisk was awesome throughout what has begun in Cologne. Again, I think these are easy games. I think that Magisk has been padding a little bit. But I think at 206, he's a nice, comfortable choice to go alongside our double G2 pick, and he's going to rack us up some of those quarterfinal points alongside our one player from Heroic. Who do we pick from Heroic? Now, Stound looks excellent. Jabby is risky as ever, okay? He was one of the reasons that they got those deep tournament runs in 2022. It's just not the same Jabby anymore, and I think anybody who has chosen him for group stage has felt that pressure already. So it really boils down to TeSeS and Shush. And I think that right now, Shush being the second highest rated Heroic player at Cologne, the general consensus of my draft is that it's based incredibly on this recent run at this event specifically. Who's playing well right now? And who's playing best on this Heroic lineup beyond Stound is Shush. 200K and I take Shush. Leaves me with 184. We've got the usual suspects. You could go for Apex. You could go for Hooksy. But I'm locking in on Snappy. Ents are already a semifinalist team. That means that if Apex runs this to grand finals but has 3 bad matches, he's going to be a massive negative. If, of course, the same thing happens with Hooksy, who I can't choose because I've got 2 G2 players already, can't even really talk about him. But the same thing, be careful with the bottom fraggers. There's not many players who are going to net you negative points, I think, throughout this event. And if you can get them deeper into the event, such as Snappy or Hooksy, I think that's a better choice. So I'm avoiding Apex. I think you should too. And this is the roster. This is it right here. These are the trolls. Okay, we need some big trolls to come through. I used artifacts last event and it didn't work out. And artifacts are all about mechanical brilliance and wisdom. The trolls, brute strength. Okay, so let's just hope that the G2 pick pulls through. It's a short event, much like the play-in. If you pick the wrong teams, you toast. You're done. It's not a lot of competition. There's not a lot of matches. And ZywOo could blow this all out of the water, I think. If Vitality goes on a big run, that could be the end of me. Also, if Heroic runs the bottom bracket, say goodbye to G2 and it all blows up in my face. But I think the double G2 pick and picking 2 players specifically who are going to be playing very well and not just Hooksy as one of the 2 should lead me to something nice. That's it. That's the trolls. That's Fantasyland for IEM Cologne playoffs today, powered by Pitstop.gg. Go check out their website, guys. If you sign up, if you just get engaged with the Pitstop challenge, it's just a group of good people who are giving me a platform, supporting me and my YouTube. And today I wanted to include them in HLTV Fantasy. So if you go sign up, if you go join the House of Scrawny, which is my league, you help them, you help me, you help yourself. And at the end of the day, you got to help yourself. All right, best of luck out there. It's going to be a crazy playoffs. And at the end of the day, screw fantasy. Let's just cross our fingers and all hope for some of the best matches, the last CSGO matches to ever be played in Cologne, in the Cathedral. This is going to be an amazing weekend of Counter-Strike. Make sure you watch it all. Peace and love. Bye-bye.